I am really excited about tonight's presentation because we have two speakers that I get to work with on a regular basis, and I absolutely love working with these two, and I hope that you'll enjoy tonight's sessions. So to start off, we have with us to talk about fostering community in an online learning environment, my very good friend and coworker, Revae Bostwick. Revae wears many, many hats. At the North Carolina Virtual Public School, she currently serves as an instructional leader, a curriculum leader, and also a Japanese language instructor for the Japanese 3 group currently. She has worked with other groups before. In addition to that, she's also an ESL lead teacher at the Newton Conover City Schools District, and that's where she teaches elementary ESL. In addition to that, she also serves as a treasurer and conference co-chair of the Carolina TSOL, and that's a nonprofit organization that provides professional development and resources for educators in North as well as South Carolina. Revae, I am very excited to welcome you tonight, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here, and I really do enjoy working with Sarah, and I get to work with Megan sometimes as well, but it's kind of funny that today's the first time I think I've actually seen her face. So I'm so happy that you all are here today, and we'll get started with the presentation. So as she said, my name is Revae Bostwick, and the email address is on the screen if any of you need to get in touch with me after this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video for one less thing on my screen here. So I'd like us to start out with our own little SEL. Take a moment to reflect on this week. So we're going to have a little bit of a thankful Thursday instead of a throwback Thursday. I'd like you just to take a moment and think about 3 things that you are thankful for, but 3 things other than your family and your friends. So just take a moment to think about 3 things that you're thankful for. And this could be as simple as you remembered to turn the coffee pot off before you left for work this morning. It could be that you are thankful you had all green lights on the way to work. So think about that for just a moment and we'll check back in. So if you feel like sharing in the chat box, share one of those things that you are thankful for. I was very thankful today that I gave a test to some students and they actually tried their best. I mean, it can be just a little thing, but we sometimes reflect on the negative things that happened in our day rather than the positive things, despite the fact that you probably had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of positive things happen and maybe one bad thing. We always seem to remember that bad thing rather than the hundreds of good things that happened. So I want you all to make sure that you are also focusing on your own social emotional learning and not just that of your students. How pretty the scenery was. Look at that. See, that is just a simple thing, but it can be a blessing just to take that in. Getting some sleep, that is one thing I'm waiting to do, is get some good sleep, but that is excellent, right? Just the fact that we have the opportunity to be able to work and do something that we love to do. It's a small thing maybe, but it just makes up a big part of our day. Mango fudge, that sounds very interesting. I really have never tried that or heard of that, but that is something that I want to look into now as well. So thank you all for taking a minute to reflect on your own positive things that happened today, or maybe. So Sarah already told you a lot about me, so I'm not going to go into all of this, but I have worked with different types of students from age 6 to probably 80 was my oldest student over the course of my years. And so I currently work with elementary students, but I have worked with adults before teaching ESL, and I've also taught EFL in Japan. So I've taught all age groups, and for a short period of time I worked at a Toyota manufacturing plant in Kentucky where I served as a translator. But for some reason, my job always seemed to involve teaching people, either adults or children. So I went to Japan to work as an event planner and translator, but part of my job was teaching ESL. So it seemed like every job I had was working with students in some teaching type of capacity. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at our NC Virtual, North Carolina Virtual Public Schools Japanese program. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the small scale and large scale activities that we've done to kind of foster a community within our online learning environment. And in particular, I'm going to look at the National Honor Society and Japan. This is what our enrollment has looked like over the past few years at North Carolina Virtual for the Japanese department alone. You can see that the blue line is for Japanese 1, orange for Japanese 2, and Japanese 3 we just got kicked off in spring of 2019, which is why you see kind of a flat line at the beginning, and then all of a sudden we have some enrollment. So we are steadily trending upwards here. And the reason it is zigzaggy like this is because we usually have a high fall enrollment for Japanese 1, and then a high spring enrollment for Japanese 2, which is kind of the zigzaggy pattern you see us having here, but we are trending upwards overall over the past few years. To put it in numbers, this is what it looks like in terms of actual numbers. So we last fall, in fall 21, is when we've had our highest enrollment, which was 360 for Japanese 1, you can see, and 99 for Japanese 2. So we are pretty excited about this increased number of enrollment. Now, our pass rates have not increased like we had been hoping, so we still have some work yet to do. We have our Japanese 1 is usually in the mid to high 80s overall, and our Japanese 2 has been up as far as maybe 85, 87% at sometimes, but sometimes it drops down into the high 60 percentile range. So we haven't really got the right trifecta of strategies and outreach happening yet to see this positively trend as high up as we would like to see it. But we are hoping that over the next few years, as we implement more of these community-based activities and strategies, that maybe we'll see these trends head upwards. And I'll come back and present in a couple of years. Hopefully I'll have even more positive results for you. But even though we do look at pass rates, and if you are working in any kind of an organization that collects data, oftentimes they collect that quantitative data. They look at the numbers, right? So it's important for us, especially as online teachers and the students themselves, to remember that they are more than just grades. They are more than just a number, because there are often times where you have a student and you maybe have never seen that student's face, you just have a name. And then we have a percentile, a proficiency level equated with that student's name. But that student is more than just that 55% that they may have in your class. If a student has a low grade, sometimes teachers say, oh, well, that person must be lazy. Maybe they're not worth my time. Maybe they don't even care about the course. But we need to remember that qualitative data as well. Students have so much going on in their lives that we sometimes don't even know about. For example, maybe they have 2 AP classes and 2 honors classes and just were really not expecting to have to do all of this work and are just overloaded and overwhelmed with all of the work they have to do. Maybe they have family members at home that they are having to take care of. I know that we have, even in the elementary school, we have elementary school students taking care of their younger siblings every day. Maybe some of those students, like high school students, I know that we have high school students now that have to work every day in order to pay the utility bills at the house, because they are responsible for paying the electric bill every month and the water bill every month. So we do need to keep in mind that we can't just see our students as numbers, as a proficiency rating. We need to see the whole student. We need to understand that whole student's life more than just the grades in our class. When taking a look at our students that are enrolled in the Japanese program, we have students that are enrolled from all over the state of North Carolina, which means that sometimes at one individual school, there are maybe only 1 to maybe 3 students that are attending our courses from that school, from that face-to-face school. And usually what happens is all of the students who are taking online classes are put into one single computer lab or classroom where all students are working on their Chromebooks or computers individually. And it's really not a community type environment in which those students are taking classes. Now, that's for the most part. I haven't seen everyone, but that's what they mostly seem to mean. And our students typically enroll because maybe they did not want to take French or Spanish, which are the only two languages offered at their school. Some of them take it because they have an interest in anime or manga. They maybe are interested in the Japanese culture or music. And some of them take it because they want to be challenged. They find that some of the languages offered in their school, which most commonly in North Carolina is Spanish, they find that that is not much of a challenge for them, and they want to learn something more interesting. And I see that the comment in the chat box is very true, that a lot of times there's a teacher assistant who has been tasked with being maybe like a monitor. It's more like a classroom monitor, a behavior monitor. And those people in the classroom that are monitoring, they don't know anything about the subjects being taught in a lot of those instances. So the students that are in that classroom taking these online asynchronous classes really don't have a person that they can ask questions of and interact with very well. So you can see how students in that kind of situation, it'd be hard to feel connected to your course, hard to get motivated to learn. I have seen that sometimes students are very easily getting off task when they're in those types of situations. So the result of this is kind of feeling disconnected, a decrease in motivation to stay on task, decreased motivation to complete your work, and overall, this is going to decrease their performance in the course. Very easy to get disengaged. So what we've tried to do at North Carolina Virtual in most of the classes, not necessarily just in the Japanese department, but many of them are having different activities they do in their class. For example, they might have a class mascot. They might choose their own pet that they have at the house and make that the class mascot and say, you know, you can describe what the dog did today or what the guinea pig is up to today, just to give them updates. So everyone kind of has a common interest then. Or it could be a stuffed animal that they've used and called it the class mascot. I've seen it done both ways. We try to have discussions with our students on non-academic topics. So maybe we might not always ask them about a particular grammar point, but we could ask them questions about what were they up to during the weekend? What was their favorite anime? What's their favorite book, their favorite food? Different types of questions to get them just engaged and feel a part of something bigger, be a part, I guess, and just be seen rather than just being a name and number. Teachers often send them texts about events that they know that their students have participated in. We always try to use a positive tone in our feedback. So again, try to show them the good things that they've done. Focus on the positive parts of their assignment rather than just looking at all of the negative. We also try to use some Bitmoji Classroom, engaging activities, images, videos, trying to make it more inviting for the student. Another big thing that we've had to do over the past, this is not even just due to COVID. Prior to COVID, we had a couple of years where there was a lot of flooding due to hurricanes, which caused us to adjust our pacing guides. And we have done adjusting in pacing guides for individual students, knowing that their circumstances prevented them from being in the school for 1 week, 2 weeks. Sometimes it was up to 3 or 4 weeks, I think, in some of the schools, or maybe even more, due to the fact that they suffered from those hurricanes and the damage that happened there. So we adjust the pacing guide for individual students based on their needs. And then the other thing at the end here, we check in on students' well-being first, rather than saying, hey, where's your missing work? So again, it's important for us to just check in on those students and say, hey, is everything okay? I've noticed you haven't submitted anything, rather than, hey, the deadline's here, where's your work? It's just a small change, but it can make a lot of difference to say we're reaching out and we care for the student. Some of the larger scale things that we've done in the Japanese department is we have tried these. We don't have everything rocking and rolling yet, but we're working on it. So we have tried doing a Nengajo or New Year's contest, New Year's card contest, I'm sorry. So in this, students either draw or use a computer to create a postcard, because in Japan, they send out New Year's cards rather than Christmas cards. So we've tried that, and we've done it a couple of times. This past year, we had 3 artists submit entries, and then we had 139 students vote on their favorite one. So we did get a lot of engagement that way. We've had some speech contests, and we haven't hosted them ourselves, but we have had some speech contests throughout the state of North Carolina, and we've encouraged our students and coached them to participate. And we have come away with some strong finishes. We had, I believe, 4 people place in the last contest that they participated in. So we're really proud of them for that. We also have done some culture cafe presentations, and I'll talk about a little bit about that. Megan's going to talk more about them, so I'll just talk a little bit about those. And then we've tried the Honor Society, which again, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, and Japan. For culture cafe presentations, when I first started, and actually they've been going on for about 13 years, but I really didn't know they'd been going on that long, because when I first started about 8 years ago, there weren't as many culture cafe presentations, or at least they didn't make us aware of them as much as they are now. So now we have either teachers or coaches do some presentations on topics of their choosing. And on the screen, you can see some different ones that we in the Japanese department have put on. And I'm sure that there are more, but these are the ones that were just on top of my head from the past couple of years, past 3 years, I guess. Nowadays, both Sarah and I try to host about 3 of these a semester so that we can really get more student engagement and more interest surrounding the Japanese culture. We try to encourage them, maybe we could get some students who might end up taking Japanese in the future. And it's also just important for us to share our love that we have of Japan and its culture. One of the last ones here on the screen saying, which says history is portrayed in anime. This was a new presentation I tried out here this past semester. And I was blown away at the knowledge of the students who participated, because the people who participated, there were some who were currently taking Japanese, but not all of them. And 2 of the students were able to supplement my information about the aircraft used in World War II, because they just had studied it so much and had such in-depth knowledge of it that they blew me away. So it's so interesting to see how much information and knowledge students have when we give them the chance to show it. And students can participate in these of their choosing. They are not required to attend these. These are just all student choice. If they find them interesting, they may attend. The Honor Society, this is another activity we have tried, and we just have started this recently. So in 2017, this came about because I attended a conference with some other Japanese teachers, and something came up about an honor society, and I had never heard of that before. And since I taught in an online environment, I thought, well, gosh, if I were in an actual face-to-face brick and mortar school, I would definitely do that. But I just kind of gave up on the idea, thinking that it wouldn't be possible for us to do in a virtual environment. So I just dismissed it and, thought, well, maybe sometime. The next year came around and I heard about it again. I thought, let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can try this. I knew it was going to be difficult because, like I said earlier, we have students throughout the whole state of North Carolina. They don't come to one single school every day. They're throughout the whole state of North Carolina. I brought it to the Japanese team and we discussed this because I knew I couldn't do it alone. And they all agreed. We have such an amazing group of teachers. They all agreed that they thought we should do this. So I wanted those students to receive this recognition because if we were in a brick and mortar school, I would make the effort to do so. So we had that roadblock, students being throughout the whole state of North Carolina. The other roadblock was the cost. How are we going to collect money from throughout the state of North Carolina from, at the time, 90 different locations in order to be able to pull this off? Well, the teachers and I were discussing, and we didn't want this to be only for the students who could pay for it. We wanted to make sure that all students could receive this award, whether or not their family could afford it. So the other teachers and I were actually willing to fund this ourselves. We were going to go forward with it and fund it ourselves. Luckily, our director, Miss Ellen Hart, she might be listening in, she was able to find us funding for this so that we did not have to pay for it on our own. So we were very fortunate because it was going to be a collective $1,000 for this. So I was a little bit happy. My pocketbook was happy about that too. But still, this is not an easy thing. Even if they pay for it, what happens is those certificates go to our central location, our office location in Raleigh, and then they have to be mailed out to the recipients throughout the state of North Carolina. Then our Japanese teachers follow up to see, did they get the certificates? Then we get this picture, and then we can put it together for a ceremony. So it's a lot of work, but it is pretty fantastic. The students get the certificate that you see in the screen, and they get the graduation cords as well. Oftentimes, the students are also recognized in their local schools for this award. And I think that's so important because the students who knows, this may be the only award that they have been given, but what a shame that would be if they wouldn't be able to be recognized at their school for something that they have accomplished. So I'm so happy that we have started this. We did our first virtual ceremony this past year in 2020, 2021. And we hope to do our next one at the end of April. In a couple more months, we'll be doing our next one. Do any of you hold any such ceremonies for Honor Society in your schools or in your virtual environments? Do you have an Honor Society for them? What we did for our induction ceremony this last year, it was our first one, and we weren't sure what all needed to be included, but we did include the kind of like the mission statement from the American Association of Teachers of Japanese. And we also had our chief academic officer speak, the director of world languages speak, and we had a recognition time for each of the students with their award. I think that that's a good idea, what you have written in the chat box about having the students write a short bio of themselves and add a little bit more information and get a little bit more background. We also had our teachers give a little bit of the teachers who had taught them over the years to write them a little congratulatory remark as well. Yeah, I think that's awesome that you've had the honor societies do those inductions. That's great. And you know what? We did ours via Zoom last year, and I think it worked out just fine. We're planning to do another one this year. I'm so glad that some of you do that. When you receive this PowerPoint, I do have some links to some other available honor societies, and maybe I'm sure that there are many more out there. These are just ones that I happen to find. I did not realize that there's a National Foreign Language Honor Society, and also there's a directory down here at the bottom for scholarships. So both of these might be good references for you to look into. All right, so our next one here is the Japan Club. The Japan Club is definitely just a fledgling idea that we are getting started here. We started it this past semester. So we started it in November. So it's just been going for a few months. And the reason it started up was actually student generated. So there was a student who really had reached out to a teacher saying, I really would like to do something. I would like to be involved in a club. Do we have anything? And we didn't. We didn't have a club for students to be involved in. We do have the recognition of the Honor Society, but the Honor Society, up to this point, we've just had it be an award, a recognition. So we thought, okay, let's think about doing this Japan Club then. We've met only a few times so far. We met once in November, twice in November, once in December, once in January, and now we have a schedule for meeting every other week because the students who attended said that's what they wanted. They want to attend twice a month. Currently, we've only had about 7 to up to 18. The attendance has been kind of random. So we've had 7 to 18 students attend, but these students really are seeking out more knowledge, more information, more cultural background. They just want anything and everything that they can get their hands on. Now, if we were in a face-to-face school, I know I would do a Japan Club. So we thought, well, let's try it here virtually as well. It gives the students a time to foster their love of the topics and bring a sense of community. All of these topics that you see on the screen are requests from students. These are the ones that they want us to talk about and learn about. When I first thought that we were doing Japan Club, I thought it was going to be something that is all very lighthearted, all very much like, okay, let's all talk about your favorite manga character. I thought that's all it was going to be, but these students want to know things like the imperial system. They want to know about the political system. They want to know about certain authors. And we're talking, they didn't say, let's talk about the authors in Japan. They gave me specific authors that they want me to talk about and to look into. So these students are really into some higher level thinking in regards to culture. So if we look at how this all connects to SEL, according to the Castle Cell Net framework, you can see in the center there, and you probably all are very familiar with these, but providing opportunities for self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness are all at the core of building and fostering social emotional skills. So when I think about Japan Club and Honor Society, I'm thinking that we are giving students a chance to be proud of themselves, to be more self-aware, and to try to make those relationships with students who have very similar interests. So I'm hoping that these branch out to even more to help our students become even more connected. And I liked this quote too to help connect things as well. And this is also from Castle. How students feel in school, whether they feel connected to their teachers, other adults in the school, or each other, is a powerful contributor to their personal and academic success. Adults in the school help shape this environment by practicing and modeling their own SEL while working together to continuously improve students' learning and experiences. So I'm hoping that the more we do these types of activities, the more connected students will feel to the adults. And our adults, I believe, are really trying to do their best to model proper relationships and success for our students. So we really didn't set out to say, well, we're going to do Japan Club and Honor Society because we want these things. But as we were implementing them, we're hoping that the students are improving their sense of community, improving their motivation to learn, We're hoping that this is eventually going to tie into an increased assignment submission rate, because sometimes, like I said, our students start feeling disconnected. Increased satisfaction rate, improved self-esteem and pride, increased knowledge of the Japanese language and culture, and hopefully this increases their desire to continuing learning language on into our levels 3 and 4. Again, one more quote from Castle is that our supportive classroom climates help students feel a part of a community of learners, motivated and challenged. This creates a strong foundation for students to engage fully and take academic risks. And I believe that these are all necessary if you are in a language learning environment. If you want to learn a foreign language, you need to be able to take some risks and feel comfortable doing so. So all of this is going to help support your students in being able to take those risks. Thank you all so much for your attention this evening. I really hope that you are able to implement more, and I am definitely looking forward to looking in the chat, because I know that a lot of you have put in ideas in the chat box, and so I can't wait to see what you've put in there to learn from you.
I hope everyone can see me. I'm getting a little picture, so I'm not sure if I'm coming through on Zoom, but hopefully at least everyone can hear me. Okay, there we go. Well, thank you so much, Revae, and a lot of things to think about there. If you remember back to the image on the slide with the stick figure and the group of people, and the stick figure looking at the group feeling really disconnected. And yes, I can definitely feel that. I feel that a lot of students, especially during the pandemic, did feel really disconnected. And so implementing these clubs is a great way to build those connections and build community. And ultimately, I think that helps our programs not only to grow and get better, but ultimately, I think that it's a more rewarding for the experience for the students. And that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for doing this tonight. We do have a great question that came in from Katya. Nice to see you, Katya. She's been in several of our webinars before. This is a really good question, and I can certainly relate to this. What do you suggest the instructor should or could do when students overschedule? So would the suggestion of slowing down and having less activities mean, say that the students maybe need a little bit more time? How would you address that?
Oh, definitely. I agree. Whenever students actually sign up for Japanese 3 or any of our classes, we do ask the students about the other classes they are taking, other activities that they're involved in. And sometimes I never want to turn people away from Japanese, but I do ask them sometimes, do you think you're going to have enough time to complete this? Because the last thing I want students to do is just to really overwhelm themselves and then just dig that hole even deeper, that they feel so overwhelmed. So I do ask students to reflect on everything that they have to do and say, do you want to prioritize a different way so that you do not feel so overwhelmed?
Absolutely. And yes, I can certainly relate to having those awkward conversations sometimes whenever you have a student who's really overbooked. Throwing my personal take into that, because I've encountered that a lot too. That is where it is key to have that relationship with the students. And those are one of the ones that we have communication journals. So if I know I have a very booked student, I color code that student's name, and I'm going to check in with that student periodically, specifically to reach out and say, hey, how are things going? I know you've got a lot on your plate right now. What can I help you with? Even just a simple question like, what can I help you with, is a great way to build that connection and help to engage them and get the stress off of them. Because it is really easy for those students who have a lot already booked to take the online class, and as they're triaging, they might kind of push the online class to the back burner and leave it there. So as online instructors, we have to be very at the top of our game and making sure we're doing everything we can do to include them. Really good. Well, I don't see any other questions right now other than Katya's question. Really great presentation, Revae. It certainly gave us a lot to think about. And one other thing I do want to leave everyone with, at my desk, I always keep origami paper. You'd think, well, why on earth would you keep origami paper at your desk other than to maybe write some fancy notes? But it doesn't take much to do little things to build the connections. And so, you know, stuff like Japan Club, having a little presentation where you might be able to fold up an origami paper and it might take you 10 minutes to show students how to do something like this. It's a great way to bring them out and build those connections. So definitely want to stress trying some different ways, thinking a little bit outside the box to make it happen. So thank you for that, Revae. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.